There is a specific, twisted kind of cruelty in the way the world remembers its goddesses. We adore them dead far more than we ever did alive. We strip away their humanity, transforming them into sterile symbols, icons, and posters on teenage bedroom walls. Marilyn Monroe stands as the ultimate martyr of this obsession. More than 60 years after her passing, her face remains the world's most recognizable currency. Her dresses sell for millions. Her image is copied ad nauseum. Yet the woman behind the mask remains a stranger. Her story isn't a fairy tale of success. It is a haunting chronicle of how fame can be a form of punishment and how the desperate need for love can transmute into a lifelong curse. On June 1, 1926, in a charity ward in Los Angeles, a girl was born with a blank space where her father's name should have been. Her mother, Gladys Baker, was a film cutter at a local studio, a woman who spent her days splicing together the dreams of others while her own life unraveled. She named the child Norma Jeane. There was a dark irony in that choice. She was named after Norma Talmadge and Jean Harlow, the sex symbols of the era. From her very first breath, the shadow of Hollywood fell upon the infant. Psychologists call this a self-fulfilling prophecy. Gladys didn't just name her daughter, she programmed her. She destined her to be an object of the male gaze, an illusion rather than a living being. Norma Jeane's childhood was a masterclass in abandonment. Her father was a phantom, a face in a photograph who never replied to her letters. Her mother was a fragile soul being slowly consumed by paranoid schizophrenia. The family tree was a map of a mental minefield, grandparents committed to asylums, uncles suffering from severe disorders. When Gladys finally suffered a total breakdown, 7-year-old Norma Jeane was left utterly alone. Over the next 7 years, she would be shuffled through 11 different foster homes and orphanages. This created what modern psychology terms Suitcase Syndrome, a chronic inability to attach to people or places because of the constant expectation of being discarded. In some homes, she was treated as unpaid labor. In others, she was a victim of abuse. When, at age 11, she tried to speak out about being molested by a foster father, she was told, "Don't make things up." It was her second lesson. Your words mean nothing. Only your body has value.
The only place the pain subsided was in the darkness of a movie theater. Watching the shimmering images on the silver screen, Norma Jeane began to construct Marilyn, a shield to hide behind. But the danger of such screens is that eventually the projection swallows the person standing behind it. She developed a stutter, most notably on the letter M. It is tragically poetic that the very name that would bring her global immortality was the one that would forever get stuck in her throat. Marriage as an escape and the accidental frame. At 16, Norma Jeane made her first attempt to purchase stability. Her marriage to Jim Doherty wasn't a grand romance, it was a strategic maneuver to escape the foster care system. The role of a housewife became her next cage, albeit one with clean curtains. While Jim served in the Navy, fate struck its decisive blow amidst the grease of a munitions factory. David Conover, an Army photographer searching for faces to boost wartime morale, saw something in the oil-stained girl that no one else had noticed: the magic of photogeny. The camera didn't just record her face, it worshipped it. It was a physiological phenomenon. Her bone structure and skin's light-reflecting properties created an ethereal glow on film. Conover handed her a business card, and Norma Jeane took a step from which there was no turning back to a normal life. The Blue Book modeling agency's verdict was cold, too ordinary. To become an icon, she had to kill the working-class brunette within. Thus began the great transformation: hair bleached to platinum, meticulous makeup artistry, and the crafting of that signature bedroom eyes gaze. Psychologists call this dissociation. To survive the industry, she created an alter ego. Marilyn Monroe was a projection, a perfect product, while the terrified Norma Jeane hid deep inside. When Jim returned from the war, he found that his wife no longer belonged to him. She belonged to the covers of magazines. Divorce was inevitable. Forced to choose between a quiet kitchen and the spotlights, she chose the light, unaware that such brightness often incinerates everything it touches. Let's discard the romanticism. Hollywood in the 1940s was a predator's playground. Without connections or money, Marilyn had to accept the rules of the game. The casting couch wasn't a myth, it was the entry fee. She paid a personal price for every tiny role, hating the system and herself within it. Yet her intuition was brilliant. Even in minor parts, in The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve, she managed to eclipse the lead stars simply by existing in the frame. By 1953, with the release of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, she became the studio's most lucrative money machine. The scene with the pink dress and diamonds cemented her image as the dumb blonde. It was a marketing triumph and a personal tragedy. The world fell in love with the mask, but refused to recognize the talent of a woman who read Dostoevsky between takes.
In 1952, America was gifted its ultimate tabloid fairy tale, the union of baseball legend Joe DiMaggio and the screen's reigning queen. Yet, behind the polished photographs lay a brutal conflict of worlds. DiMaggio, a conservative Sicilian, sought a quiet harbor and a submissive wife. To him, her fame was a personal affront. The breaking point came on the set of The 7-Year Itch. As thousands of onlookers roared in delight while the subway breeze lifted Marilyn's skirt, Joe stood in the shadows, seething with rage. That night, the shouting behind hotel walls turned into the sound of violence. Their marriage lasted only 274 days. DiMaggio would love her for the rest of his life, sending roses to her grave for 20 years, but his love had been an attempt to suffocate the very essence of who she was. After power came intellect. Playwright Arthur Miller represented her chance to escape the dumb blonde persona. For him, she converted to Judaism and immersed herself in serious literature. But Marilyn's tragedy was her perpetual search for a father figure in her husbands, while they, in turn, sought the goddess, not the fragile girl. Even Miller eventually began to see her merely as a subject for his plays, growing disillusioned by her instability and emotional demands. Her professional life became a battlefield against her own psyche. On the set of Billy Wilder's legendary comedy, Marilyn was a nightmare. 59 takes for a single line, chronic lateness and debilitating panic attacks. Yet the miracle was that the camera remained blind to her suffering. On screen, she was the embodiment of light and effortless charm. Wilder later admitted that while any actress could have been more technically proficient, the audience only wanted Marilyn. She possessed the one thing that cannot be taught: absolute, raw vulnerability. Loneliness at the end of the line. The finale of this fairy tale was anything but Hollywood. Marilyn died not as a goddess, but as a discarded child, clutching a telephone receiver, surrounded by empty pill bottles. She had conquered the world, but failed to find the one person who would love the woman behind the mask. Cinderella never made it to the ball's end. She simply dissolved into the glare of the spotlights, leaving us nothing but her flawless, haunting reflection.